I walked the Cape Wrath Trail in spring and summer 2026. As there are numerous routes to get you from Fort William to Cape Wrath, I thought it might be quite useful to share with you the route that I took. This video charts the route from Strathcarron to the Cape itself. So Strathcarron and Atterdale mark a bit of a milestone because you move from the Cape Wrath Trail Harvey's map south to the north one, and you actually feel like you're making progress. So I left Strathcarron and walked down the little road, very quiet road, and then you go to a very nice path. You can camp. I think the pub has got a little campsite that you can use, but there are other places to camp here. I decided to have a really short day here, and it was lovely. The sun was out, and I walked along the River Carron, very pleasant, and joined the little road. And I decided I'd booked myself a place at Inchnadamph, so I carried on here and followed the road. The road, I've written road is hard work, but actually I found it fine, probably because I was fresh in the morning. And you walk along Loch Dughail and all the way here, and at this little place marked Lair is Inchnadamph campsite, which is a real gem. I did actually walk up and looked at Inchnadamph station, which is very sweet. Walk back down again. So I think I only did about 9 miles that day. Got to the campsite just after midday and just relaxed, and it was lovely. So the next day, left Inchnadamph campsite, walked along the road, had a bit of a shock because although the road was very quiet, a car passed me from behind me, overtaking another car at about 70 miles an hour. Must have missed me by about a foot. So I was a bit wary about that. So I managed to get off the road as soon as possible. And it is a quiet road. And there's a little path that takes you up here, quite steep. Joins a little trail here, which again is quite steep and takes you up the Coolin Pass. And you join a 4x4 track. This was very pleasant. I enjoyed this. Although it was steep, you got lovely views, and it was just very pleasant walking. Follow the 4x4 track, which is pretty obvious all the way down. I think from memory there were possible places to camp along here, but I wouldn't bank on it. And you go down and follow the River Coolin into Coolin and down through Torran Coolin. I was going to go a little shortcut through there, but they were logging, so you couldn't get through. I stopped somewhere around about there as a little sort of odd little power station, and it got quite windy by then, so I used that to get out of the wind and had some lunch. And then you climb up. This is very steep, this bit. I decided not to go to the bothy, which is round here, and just carry straight on up. So up. Kept on going. The bothy Cheneval is supposed to be very nice, but I didn't want to go there. Carried on going there. Again, pretty easy walking. You will see a track to the right, which I'd heard was very boggy. So that actually the path down here is very clear and much more obvious. So I went down there, crossed the little river, which was dead easy. I think there was a bridge there, and again joined the little road. It was pretty quiet apart from a succession of camper vans. So you had to sort of step to the side each time they came, but it was okay, and followed the little road up. It seemed a little bit interminable until you came to Kinlochewe. It looks a nice campsite there, but it was only about midday, and I ummed and erred about staying there. By the time I got to Kinlochewe, I lost some of my motivation, and I was thinking, I don't know if I can be bothered to carry on. But I sat down there's a little service station with a lovely cafe and a good shop. Sat down there, had a good rest, had something to eat, pulled myself together, and decided to crack on. Followed the road for a little bit, and off the road and to this parking place there, round here and off the road. And there's a very, very steep little climb just here. up a sort of woody, slippery path. But once you get onto this path, it's fine. Various places you can camp along here. Pretty easy walking here. You follow the river, and then you go up to the left. Watch you don't go down there. Up to the left. It's pretty steep here. There are some beautiful little dwellings there, which obviously have had a lot of money spent on them. And I thought how nice it would be to have somewhere like that. I just carried on going all the way up here. Decent track all the way up there. And I was going to camp somewhere round about Loch Farder. There were possible campsites there, but it was wet and it was really quite boggy. I planned on camping there, and when I got there, it was really blowing a gale. The wind was coming right down off Loch Farder, and I found what looked like a decent campsite, but I just couldn't get my tent up, kept being blown down. But somewhere round about there, I found a little hollow, which was just slightly bigger than my tent and just slightly out of the wind. So I did a very iffy pitch. Unfortunately, there was a great big stone right in the middle of the floor, so I had to sort of sleep round that, and was kept awake by the wind quite a lot. But it was a bit sketchy, but it was okay. Next day, there's not really any path here, and it's fairly horrible and boggy, and it was still quite wet, so it was fairly heavy going. But navigation wasn't too bad. You just have to sort of take a bearing and keep on going. And you go through the Bealach, and you pick up bits of path, and then they disappear, and you keep on going. You have to have your wits about you when you're navigating. You descend, and there is a vague sort of stalker's path that you pick up. I suppose last night, if I couldn't have pitched, I could have carried on here and found somewhere, but I decided to go on. It was fairly tough walking along here. Possible places to pitch along Loch Annid, but I wasn't quite sure of them. You follow the path, it's all boggy and a bit squelchy, and on a wet day it's a bit depressing, but it was okay. And you start to pick up this path and it gets slightly better. I think I said about Chenaval being previously, but actually it was here. You can deviate, go to Chenaval and back again. I didn't want to do that because I just wanted to carry on going. So very steep ascent here, but the path is decent, and it's just it's just hard work walking, but it's easy path, and then a steep descent there. Around about here, I met a group of 6 people who didn't seem to be appropriately dressed at all, and it was raining, and they were just walking up probably to Chenaval. So I hope they were all right, because it was fairly tough going, and they didn't seem to have proper shoes on or waterproof, something like that. But you come down here, pretty obvious route, pretty easy walking, get to the road. Carry along the road there, and I was starting to think that I might actually get to Ullapool that evening. I hadn't booked anywhere. I phoned up the campsite and they said they had spaces, but they closed their doors at 7 o'clock sharp. And it was about 4 o'clock by the time I got here, so I was wondering whether I could get there in time. Followed this track up here, very steep little section here. The weather came down and it was wet and a bit miserable, but the track was okay. It's just a bit boggy and a bit sad and wet all the way along here. You carry on going past Loch Antompain. I put a little camp sign there. I couldn't actually see anywhere to camp there, but I did find somewhere to camp just on the edge of Loch Anfiorn. It's still quite boggy, So it wasn't a great campsite, but by this time it was about 6 o'clock. And I was thinking I probably haven't got time to get back down here, get a taxi and get to the campsite at Ullapool. So I decided to stay there. Got up the next morning, traversed down here. Pretty steep going all the way down here, but okay path, just hard work on your knees. Carry on down here and you meet the little road, and then you get to there. You phone the taxi service. There are 2 taxi services. I think it's Ullapool Taxis who I got. It was £18 into Ullapool. So you take the taxi right into Ullapool. And I was going to just stay in Ullapool for one night, have a day off, and then move on. But I had to come home from Ullapool for a family emergency. So when I came back, end of July, I got the bus from Inverness to Ullapool that got in about 9:50, I think it was. Drops you just here. You walk up through here. Tesco's is around about here. There's also an outdoors shop where I bought some camping gas. And then you follow the little road up here that takes you up to the Ullapool River, and it's signposted to Moorfield Quarry. Pretty obvious track. It was absolutely pouring this morning. But you follow the track, turns into bits of road and bits of 4x4, and you walk past Loch Achal, which was very pleasant walking, even though it was pouring. There was a nice little boathouse here. Possible places to pitch along here. So pretty easy walking, few ups and downs, but nothing particularly steep. The distance from Ullapool to Rhiconich Bridge is about 19 miles, and it's definitely doable in a day. It's fairly easy walking, easy to do, particularly if you've got your stamina back. But I'd had a couple of 5 weeks off trail, so I was a little bit tired. But easy walking, carry on going up Loch Andamph to Inchnadamph Bothy, which was very pleasant. Stayed in Inchnadamph Bothy and had something to eat there, but I think it was about 2 o'clock, so I decided to crack on. Left Inchnadamph Bothy, good paths, some ups and downs, but that was okay. There's a fairly big crossing here. Water was only about 1.5 feet deep, but you get wet feet. And then you come down and you get to the Schoolhouse Bothy. Schoolhouse Bothy was fab. It's a sort of wooden bothy, and it's been redone. It was redone in 2001, and it's just really comfortable. It hasn't got any of that stone severeness that you sometimes see in bothies. It was very welcoming. There are 2 main rooms and one other little room. There's a Dutch couple who was staying in one of the rooms, and I stayed in the other room. It was really nice to get out of the midges. And you can scramble down to the river here and get water. It's an obvious place where people have gone down to get water. So I had a very nice night in the Schoolhouse Bothy. The next morning I'd heard that the Rhiconich Bridge Hotel did coffee from 10 o'clock. It was on their website. So I left at about 8:30 and walked along here. Easy walking, very pleasant. Some nice views as well. Carry on down here, easy 4x4 track, and you come down and you see Rhiconich Bridge Hotel. Got there at 10:05, went in all hopeful for a coffee and maybe a snack to eat, and they said, "Oh no, we're not doing that. We don't do anything till 12:30." So I thought, oh well, okay, and decided to crack on. But I sat down in the bench outside the Rhiconich Bridge Hotel and had something to eat. So you walk up, go across another little bridge, pass behind the Rhiconich Bridge Hotel, follow a decent 4x4 track. There were lots of people fishing on the River Rhiconich, and it was pleasant, easy walking. Stopped to talk to a few. Here was actually quite difficult to actually get down to the river and get any water, but there are various little tributaries so you can get some water. I think you can probably camp along here. but you might possibly get moved on. And there are obviously people who pay an awful lot of money, and whether they own the land or not, they might not want dirty, scruffy campers there. But who knows, maybe I'm being a bit prejudiced. You walk along here, and I decided to get here, and then rather than take this 4x4, I walked down here through Salachy, and nothing at Salachy. I think on reflection that might have been a bit of a mistake, because that was really boggy and horrible. And when I got back and joined this path, it looked like a sort of logging path that had been quite well used. So I'd suggest going back up there. But anyway, I followed the River Rhiconich up here. And I was going to camp just north of Benmore Lodge. You come down here, you get lovely views of Loch Ailsh. Apparently there's some good places to camp there, but I couldn't quite find them. And I decided to carry on going past Benmore Lodge and up here, and carried on going. I knew that there wouldn't be anything up here, so I did manage to find somewhere just by a tree there, just before the sort of woods finished, set up tent there, and then walked literally about 7 yards further, found a much better place. So I took the tent down and repitched it. Good place to camp. There was water up here that you could get to, but it was very midgy. This was the end of July. So I was very happy that I had my midge suit. Next morning, up along through Benmore Forest, so it's called, but there are no trees. This is all a bit boggy and quite hard work. You get to this bit where there's not much path at all, and this was all grim, really hard going. And you do pick up little bits of path, particularly as you get to the top with Conneval on your right, and you think, oh, that's fantastic, I've got there. You'll see a very clear path going up a hill on your right, which is best to take. That comes back down, and somewhere around about here the path gives out, and you end up in a sort of boggy hell for an hour or so. If you keep relatively close to the river, on your right hand side you'll see a good track, and I was somewhere up round here, trying to scramble down to the river, and I ended up on a very steep part of the hill with scree, and I didn't like it at all. Well out my comfort zone, but I managed to get round and took my time and got back down, across the river, which was okay, and heaved a huge sigh of relief to actually get onto this path. The path was a little bit boggy in places, but it was okay, and it was okay walking all the way up to Inchnadamph. Stayed in the backpackers hostel there, which was fantastic, really good. Nothing else at Inchnadamph. There is a hotel which serves food to residents, but not non-residents. But the Inchnadamph Explorers Hotel was a really good place to stay. I had time constraints when I got to Inchnadamph, and part of me wanted to go up here and go to the two bothies here, but I knew that would take 2 days, and I really had to be home for a gig I was playing in. So I decided to take the slightly easier option, and the next day I walked along the road here, up through Skiag Bridge, turned right. There is a detour that you can do here, a path there, and I got up to about here by Achmore, and the path disappeared and started to get very, very boggy. And I thought, you know what, I can't face any more bog, so I backtracked and walked up the road. Road's pretty quiet. You can walk along the side of the road, it's okay. Odd cars going, but beautiful views back through Loch Assynt and you carry on going up through here. So you're going all the way up here. There's a little wiggle in the road there and a parking bit which seemed very popular because you can see wonderful views to Loch Glencool. And here I caught my first sight of the sea, which made me a little bit emotional. Walked back down there. It's a bit of a long slog along the road, but it's okay walking. All the way up here to Ullapool. There's the Rock Cafe at Ullapool, which was well worth going into. I had some nice soup there. And then you go across the bridge at Karlsruhe and up to Karlstrom. So that was quite a good diversion, actually. It would have been quite nice to go to Glencool and everything like that, but it was easier walking. This was a long day. I did 23 miles this day, and I think it was only because I've been doing the road walking that I could manage it. So I took the upper of these two tracks and was looking down to Loch Glendu and Loch Glencool, and the scenery was absolutely fantastic. In actual fact, it was so good that I missed my turning here and ended up going down on this track here to the lower track, which was slightly longer. Easy path, but tough walking. Lots of ups and downs. This path seemed to go along for ages and ages and ages. You do join the bit which takes you back to Glendu here. Quite a tough walking, ups and downs, but at least the path's clear. And you join the other bit here, carrying going up and up and up for what seems like an eternity until you get to the very top. Again, you've got fantastic views. The scenery here, I think, was the best of the whole trail. And you get to the top and you can see Loch Stack, I think it is. And the forest here, came down here, walked through the forest. I was thinking about camping at Lochmore Lodge, but decided to get to the little road here. Took the little road through Achfari, nothing at Achfari apart from a couple of lovely houses. Carried on going through the road, going along the road. This was a bit of a slog, took quite a long time. It was a quiet road. I think only about 3 cars passed me, but it took about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get along here. And by this time it was 7. I was really tired. And just before the turn off to Lochstack Lodge, you'll see by the number 45 on the map, there's a deserted building, sort of tumble down cottage, and at least 2 good places to camp there. And you're right by Lochstack, so dead easy to get water. Next morning, woke up through Lochstack Lodge, clear path, but getting quite boggy. That takes you past the loch, and you'll see the path going up to the left. Very clear path all the way along here. But from there onwards, let's move the camera. It starts getting very boggy and you're off the path, so not really anywhere to camp. You just have to take a bearing and follow your way to Loch Garbad Moir. That wasn't too bad, actually. It was quite boggy and squelchy, but it was okay. This path is hard work. It is at least a bit of a path, but it's a horrible path. And it's boggy and squelchy all the way. And saps your energy and everything like that. There's quite a big crossing there. I did walk down here and see if it got any better. The water was slow running, but I decided to cross right at the mouth of the river because it was only about 4 or 5 metres of crossing and then a stony bit. Met someone coming the other way from Sandwood Bay here, and we stopped and had a little chat. And from then, the path is still boggy and squelchy, but it gets better and better until you get to Rhiconich. I was hoping to go into the Rhiconich Hotel and have a drink, but the bar didn't seem to be open. There's a police station here, and apparently you can camp next to the police station, but it looked a little bit public. So I carried on going up the road. Very quiet road here. I put busy road, but it wasn't busy road at all. Carry on walking, and I booked a place at the schoolhouse, the old schoolhouse rooms and tea room at Inchnadamph, which I stayed at. Very nice. but couldn't get in till 4 o'clock. So carried on walking up the road to the fabled London stores, which unfortunately is closed due to unforeseen circumstances, which is a real shame. Carried on going, did a detour into Kinlochewe to go to the spa there. So the spa is somewhere around here, and the spa is pretty well stocked. Managed to pick up some rolls and some cheese and stuff like that. Carried on going up the road, easy walking, up and down a little bit. Old Shore Moor, there's a retreat somewhere around here and a campsite. Nice walking, it was very pleasant here until you come to Blairmore. And at Blairmore, there's the sort of car park for Sandwood Bay. And you pick up the track, lovely track. It was a beautiful day as well. Various places to camp along here and some beautiful lochs with sandy shores. And that was really enjoyable walking there. A few little streams to ford and stuff like that. But lovely, lovely, lovely. And you get to about here and you get your first glimpse of Sandwood Bay. And on a beautiful day as it was, Sandwood Bay was just, beautiful. It was like a mirage. It was just gorgeous. And you can actually pick up a little bit. You can see the lighthouse in various little glimpses. And you walk down through here and onto the bay. And the sea was crashing on the sand. There's beautiful blue, white sand and stuff like that. Gorgeous. And I walked along, sat down, had something to eat, walked along, debating where to camp. Decided to ford this stream here, and I camped somewhere around about there. If you just walk inwards as I did to Sandwood Loch to get water, that's sweet water there, it's not salt water. There's a great big area of grass along here where you could pitch about 30 tents. So I had a lovely night at Sandwood Bay. Got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, packed away very quickly, and found my way along here. This took a long time. Forded the river there. That was quite sketchy, actually. It was hard work. And actually just bumped into someone who was camping there, who tried to walk from Sandwood Bay to Cape Wrath a couple of times before, never managed to do it. So we decided to walk together. You really just have to follow your nose along here. There's lots of climbs, lots of bits where you get to the top of a hill and think it's going to be easy going down, but it's a sheer drop and have to backtrack. I wouldn't follow this to the bothy. I wouldn't follow this to the bothy because you've got a tricky river crossing and I think it's quite difficult there. So we sort of followed our nose round here a little bit, cross this river, aim for the Bealach between the two big hills there, and you actually get up through there. And then somewhere round about here, you'll see a building here, a white building, and that's the start pretty much of the 4x4 track. And you just breathe a huge sigh of relief. And walking gets easier here, and then you pick up the 4x4 track, which takes you all the way up to Cape Wrath. And you breathe a big sigh of relief to get to Cape Wrath. That's been quite a long video, but hopefully it's been useful, and hopefully it's given you some tips for if you decide to walk the Cape Wrath Trail.